Hello and welcome to Dear Coach, 3 Steps into Alignment. My name is Michelle and I'm a self-leadership coach. In this podcast, I will share with you the name it, feel it, and shift it method that you can apply to your daily life. This is becoming your very own coach. I will focus on exploring values and how they shape us and guide us. They form our decisions and behaviors, and most importantly, how we interact with others. I want to help you make room for more peace of mind and help you build confidence one step at a time. We can't do it alone, so let's help each other rise and make room for growth. In essence, our values are our inner compass. Let's get started. Hi, welcome back to Dear Coach, 3 Steps into Alignment. In this episode today, I'm going to be talking to you about something I went through, things that I had to change, let go, move, and shift. And for me, that was a feeling of nervousness in my body all the time because I always felt like I needed to be rushed to be somewhere. So here's my story. I am a divorced single parent. So if some of you are in this situation right now, the mental stress of having to pick up and drop off and go to different events and being on time can become very stressful. So I noticed to myself, even pre-divorce, that being on time has always been important to me, but I never really knew its value up until now. So with the added on divorce and shared custody and different arrangements and school pickups and all these things, I noticed myself at work, my stomach always being in knots. And I thought, oh my God, I've got to do something about this. Like, what's wrong? I don't always feel this way, but I would lose concentration. I would drop or break things. I'd be extremely distracted. I totally forget my focus, and it took me a long time to get back into the seat of work. So if any of you guys have been experiencing this, you're not alone. So here's how I kind of dissected this. I had my own coaching session with my personal coach. And when I turned Zoom on, I sat down and I had my cup of tea and I was like, oh my God. I said, I am tired. I keep getting these headaches and my neck is always sore. And I said, I'm always just feeling rushed. And she said, okay, tell me more about that. So the feel it part in this segment is a feeling that I'm internally holding on to of feeling rushed, which was manifesting in tension and lack of focus and losing sleep. And so I started describing to her that I only notice this when I'm in charge and I have places to go and pick up my kids and do the events. And when I didn't have my kids, I felt a little bit more at ease, but I also found myself always preparing to make sure that I had everything ready for when they came back. I had their food, their treats, if there were any events, birthday parties, I was still gathering and making sure that everything was there and available for them. And I just was starting to feel really exhausted and drained, and I didn't want to be there anymore. So then she asked me, she's like, so it sounds like, the feeling of being rushed comes from a value of motherhood. It seems very important to you. So we started discussing motherhood. So there's a lot of mothers out there, and there's also a lot of fathers. But if anybody can relate, doesn't matter if you're, a mother or father, this is a real thing. So we explored the motherhood value. And for me, motherhood is so many things. So here's my list here of motherhood. Okay, I had to write this down, and this is just some of them. And I hope that while you break down motherhood for you, you'll see some of what you project to your kids, to the people around you. So here we go. As a mother, I am a teacher. I have compassion, and I will always be available. I am a leader, I'm a nurturer, and I also like to show and share adventure. I am unconditional love, and I'm a place of safety. So, and within that, I also value being a provider, because that's also important to me is in motherhood. And underlying as a provider, what's important for me there is security, dependability, and being available. So just having those words right there within that value of safety, available is in motherhood, being a leader, compassion, provider, security, dependability, and being available. When those things aren't being met by me, since they're my belief systems within that motherhood value, can you see where the nervousness has come from? So these are important things that I have collected within my story of what I've witnessed from my own parents, from just talking with your girlfriends and becoming mothers, and sharing stories and sharing things that are very important. I mean, I'd like to adapt that, right? So here's where all these values come from. And it's very important that you sort of do this work, because you can redirect and learn to shift through the stories and where you've learned them from to what really has to happen today. So the holding on and letting go process. So here's where all of these meanings behind motherhood and a provider came from. So I grew up, and when I was a little girl, I always had my mom and my dad available all the time. You know, we were on the bus by ourselves, but in the evenings, you know, we were always there. It was a family unit, and there was never a sense of being home alone. And I'm talking about when you're, you know, between the ages of, I don't know, grade 1 to, you know, grade 4, grade 5, and then your parents come home from work. But I always felt secure. So that's why security and being available is always important to me. I also grew up in an environment where my parents were foster parents. So there were always kids in and out of my house, and my parents gave it their all. They were our providers as parents, and they were foster parents and providers, and provided safety. They provided compassion. They provided adventure. So I grew up in this wonderful environment that my parents created for me through their values. So, yep, when they say it goes back to your childhood, it certainly does. So my interpretation of all of these things that I saw and grew up with, the unity of family, I really found it important, and I made it important. Subconsciously growing up as I'm observing, and as an adult actually consciously going, I remember this and it's important, I want to do this. That's where all of these things came from. Now, pre-divorce, I was also a stay-at-home mom. That was number one for me. If I was going to be a mom, there was going to be a way where, you know, I could be at home for the first 6 years. So when I got divorced, I still wanted to be that stay-at-home mom, but work full-time. So I was creating my own personal expectations in these values. It was all or nothing, which created a lot of my nervousness and stress and sleepless nights and migraines. So having these expectations that came from my childhood that were really important to me, and to continue being a stay-at-home mom and working full-time and being that superhero that I grew up with my parents, and being that for my kids, was no longer realistic. I had to take my cape off, right? And that was hard, you know. So I sat back and I looked at my coach, and I had tears. Kids are amazing. Being a mother is amazing. It all has its ups and downs, but so does everything else. But that was a big step for me to reevaluate and go, I can't be this version of myself no longer. It has to change. And I really didn't know how. So when my coach asked me, where could you start letting go? Where could you give a little bit of responsibility to others? And I thought, oh God, I don't know. So I had to think about, my kids are older now. I could have after school daycare. Didn't like that feeling because it wasn't the stay-at-home mom part that I really wanted to be, but I couldn't be that version anymore. So I did look into daycare. I looked into asking my kids how they would feel if I was sometimes late and had to call the school, or actually explain to them that I can't be there at these specific times anymore because I had to work more so that we could do, the Cubs and the Scouts and the gymnastics and the music and have the holidays. But it was still very important for me to be there as often as I could. And that was hard for me. That took a lot of thinking. I had to think of how I would feel about my new role. A big part of me felt like I wasn't stepping up to what my dream was. But I had to realign my reality and the value behind motherhood. So could I still be available? Could I still be dependable? Could I still be unconditional but give it a new meaning? Yeah. So it took a lot of time to do that, but I did by asking my kids how they felt about everything. How do you feel about having two houses? How do you feel about, me being late? How do you feel about going to daycare? And even if you don't like it, then how can we help each other? And we all had to make room for that. So the letting go was putting a new meaning on my reality. So when they say you can rewrite your story, the story that I had in value of motherhood and this dream that I really wanted to pursue forever, and I still am, and I'm learning, and because now my kids are teenagers and they're never home, so I do have that empty nest syndrome, but I see it differently now because there's a lot of give and take, and I've realized that asking not only what my kids feel, but expressing how I feel could really open up a whole lot of doors. To make the changes happen, I had to refocus on not where everything came from, but I had to focus on how I want to build a new motherhood value, a new meaning behind it. So what I mean by that is taking all of the experience that I had and the importance of them and sharing that with my kids, actually expressing to them where everything came from and how proud I felt. And over time, the sadness of not being able to fulfill that in a dream world, but fulfilling it in a true reality of what my life was actually like and still feel good in all of those things, really came down to earth. I had to really work at it, express it, and do it and give it all a new meaning. So I was no longer feeling stuck and feeling lost or like I was doing something wrong or like I was failing my kids. That's how I felt at the beginning, but with having a conversation and realigning my values to today, I realized that sometimes we are meant to move, we are meant to evolve. So all the things we've gathered through all our lives, that's the peeling back of the onion. Where did everything come from? As you peel back, you can be free and explore differently and add to different values and make them work for you. And that's why I find this work, coaching 3 steps into alignment through values and the meaning and the beliefs we have within those meanings and the emotions we carry within that. is definitely moving and freeing. It allows for expansion and contraction. And that day I felt sad that I had to let go of a vision that I really wanted to have. But I also felt nervous to actually express to my kids that, this superhero cape that I've got, I kind of got to let go because I'm scared and I feel like I can't provide, but I'm going to do it in a different way. And then to actually be vulnerable and actually say that to the kids and then say, what do you think, was also moving. My heart melted. I think I cried so much that evening in bed, in my journal, writing how good it felt that I wasn't alone in my family. Even though I was a single parent, I still have 3 kids that can be with me, and actually I can depend on them emotionally for expansion, involve them instead of being that single isolated mother and being that sole leader. So I was the leader, but I realized that I actually have 3 people that can expand my perception along the way. So I really thank my coach for that, and about a year's worth of shifting and noticing at work on the days that I had to pick up. I would sit back for myself, and if I felt my nervous system kind of move into my throat, my intention that I said to myself was, it's okay. Like, your kids are good. Remember, your kids are good, and they're going to be happy to see you, and they're going to be okay. They're with the school or they are with a friend, right? So that was my personal intention that I said every time I would have the thought, or my body would react thinking, oh God, I think I'm going to be late. I'm going to, I said that I would be there, and I kind of want to be there 10 minutes early, but if I'm there right on time, and my brain and my thoughts would go back into the backward feeling instead of the forward feeling of, no, it's okay. That was my intention. That was my work. Every time that came up, I said, no, I realigned. And over time, I was okay. It became my new automatic habit that it was freeing and it was okay. So, for any of you single moms or single dads that feel that being reliable, being dependable comes with the feeling of, if you aren't, you are not good enough, leave your comments down below. Stop, take a look, write down your values and how they make you feel, and really explore them, and look for ways that you can sort of make shifts within that, because it's freeing. You can actually sleep at night. And that's truly how I felt and how I still feel today. So if this video was helpful, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up. You can reach me on my website. I do offer single one-on-one coaching sessions, and I also have a 5-week in-depth Name It, Feel It, and Shift It program, which we go through all of the values, we go through communications, we go through boundary setting, and a sense of self. So you can reach me at www.michellejgauthier.com, and next week on my next episode, I'm going to be talking about management and their intentions, unspoken intentions. Sometimes they go wrong. See you soon.